Okay. The poem Who's for the Game by Jessie Pope. This is an important poem because it happens just, I think, during the early stages of World War One, when people were under the impression that war was an honourable thing and that to fight in a war was kind of like people's heroic duty, that it was a good thing to do. So, in a way, Jessie Pope kind of titles her poem "Who's for the Game." And the game she's talking about is war. Who's for the game? Who's in a way she's suggesting that war is just like a game. So who's up to get to get stuck in? Um, and in a way, it's kind of what we call a euphemism. It's a euphemism. So we look at the first stanza. Who's for the game? The bigots that played the red crashing game of a fight. Who'll grip and tackle the job unafraid, and who thinks he'd rather sit tight? So if we look at this, you see this idea of who's for the game. The biggest that's played, in a sense, what that means is that this is for keeps. This is a big game. There's no bigger game than war. War is really, really, very, very important. And there's a high stakes. So what they're saying is that the stakes are really, really high. It's a red crashing game of a fight. And if we look at this idea of red, we get this idea of blood, of crashing. That when you play a game of rugby, it's tough, you get smashed. And if we look here, who'll grip and tackle the job unafraid? So in a way, they're kind of comparing the game to war to a game of rugby. And I think that's kind of, it's kind of interesting how she makes that, in a sense, like the game of rugby is a metaphor for war. All right. But in the end, she says, who thinks he'd rather sit tight? Okay. And then she says, who'll toe the line for the signal to go? Who'll give his country a hand? Who wants a turn to himself in the show? And who wants a seat in the stand? So there's two different people in here. There's people who are waiting to kind of give it their all, to kind of get involved in the game. And there's a spectator who'll sit back and watch. And again, to be in the stand, to be not part of the action. And in a way, she's encouraging people to think about kind of like how they will get involved. And remember, this is war. This is people get killed in war. Countries are destroyed in war. And how she says it in a way, it's all a bit of a game. It's fun. Games are fun. You get bloody, you get injured, but that's part of the game. Who knows it won't be a picnic? Not much, yet eagerly shoulders a gun. Who would much rather come back with a crutch than lie low and be out of the fun? And I like this. This is kind of really interesting. So it won't be a picnic. No, it won't be. It'll be tough, but not much. We got this out picnic. It's kind of like really interesting use of this idea that things that won't be comfortable, yet eagerly shoulders a gun. And again, it's that kind of be quick to get up and shoot someone. Because really, the only reason you have a gun in war is to kill the enemy. And so it's an are you ready to kill the enemy? And it's quite sort of distasteful. Who would much rather come back with a crutch than lay low and be out of the fun? And I like that idea of the kind of you get with a crutch, with kind of when you've injured your leg, you kind of hobble along. You're saying, oh, well, you could come back with a crutch. Who would rather do that than just be out of the fun, than lie low and be out of the fun? What fun's that? The fun of seeing your friends blowing up, of coming back with a crutch, probably because you've got no leg or your legs have been blown off. So in a way, it's almost like a supercilious way that she kind of talks about this. Come along, lads, but you'll come on all right, for there's only one course to pursue. Your country is up to her neck in a fight, and she's looking and calling for you. So if we look at that idea, what she's talking about, come on, boys, get stuck in. You're like a game of rugby. You'll be all right. But there's really only one thing to do, because we're up to a fight, and you need to step up and get into it. All right. And so with that sort of in there, you've got different euphemisms for like the idea of war. It's not a picnic. Okay, you'd rather kind of come home injured than not be part of the fray. So all of those things have something to do with that. But also look at this idea of the rhythm of the poetry. Who's for the game? The biggest is played. The red crashing game of effect. Who'll grip and tackle the job unafraid, and who thinks he'd rather sit tight? So it sounds a little bit like a song, and in a way, it's meant to be repetitive. You get it into your head, and in a way, it's like propaganda that's meant to sort of get you kind of riled up and ready for action. And so that's part of the thing. And if we come and have a look, okay, at the questions now, where are we? Who's the game? Where are we? Who's the game? The questions. Let's have a look at that. So, what image of the war does the poet create in this poem? It's like a game. It's not a picnic. People get injured, but that's okay. And so we get this idea that there's something that's fair. Games have rules. Rules are, and so it's something like that. What does the poet try to persuade men to sign up to fight? How does she do it? Well, in a sense, she's appealing to their idea of it's a game that really it's going to be fun. It'll be fun. You're going to lay out of the fun. Don't worry about kind of losing a leg and a crutch. Even if you get carried off in a stretcher, it'll be fun. And what effect does the use of rhetorical device have on the reader? And again, rhetorical devices are a way to use that kind of asking a question that doesn't need to be asked. She's appealing to men's vanity. She's appealing to their idea of wanting to be a hero. She's appealing to all of those things in a way that kind of appeal to our better nature. Are you going to stick up for your country? Of course you're going to stick up for your country, and your countrymen. There you go. Prayer uses a friendly conversational matter in the poem. What effect does this have on the reader? Now, when she uses this conversational tone, it's kind of like your aunt sitting down and talking to you and say, you should step up. You need to do that. It's meant to put them at ease, as if Jessie Pope's our friend, as if she's like a loving auntie, or who's really able to kind of how we say kind of encourage us to kind of get involved in a game, but it's not a game, and people die. Millions of people died in World War One, and so when we read this poem, we kind of see it from different eyes. The key points that you need to think about when we kind of think about this poem is she uses rhetorical questions. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Well, of course I am, because I don't want to be sitting in the stands. I want to be in the action. I want to have fun. All of those things. So she uses those rhetorical things. The poet uses the metaphor of a rugby game in order for the war, in a sense. It's two equally opposing sides meeting under rules, and then they battle it out to see who's the best. The exciting imagery is really, really important, because it's that idea of kind of like getting involved, the rush of adrenaline that comes with that. And then the use of imperatives, and then the idea of war as a game. So it's an interesting poem, and we'll look a little bit closer at different poems as well that are kind of similar in this vein. And ones we're going to start, but we want to compare and contrast this with another poem. Okay, that's it.